Hey everybody, I'm Michael. This is a review for the Garfield movie, which I just saw in the theaters this weekend. I brought my ugly Garfield plushie with me to the theater. The Garfield Facebook page posted a picture saying you could bring ugly Garfield to the movie. I'm like, whew, I feel seen. Yeah, that made me feel so happy because I do love this ugly Garfield plushie. It's just so ugly, I can't help but love it. It can't even really sit up straight. Like, I have to hold it in a weird way to prevent it from falling down. So, like, I can't put it on a desk or anything. It just falls right over. It's so unbalanced. Anyway, I'm not reviewing this stuffy. I am reviewing the Garfield movie. It's okay. I want to start by being nice and say it will entertain kids. Kids were in the theater and they definitely liked it. It's got a lot of jokes, a lot of visual humor, a lot of slapstick humor, and, you know, a lot of Garfield references. I know it's like 3, like, deeper Garfield references. Like, you know, they have the date that the Garfield strip debuted. That was on a dumpster. Or the mean lady says, Jiminy... Instead of saying Jiminy Cricket, she says Jiminy Davis, because Jim Davis draws the Garfield comic strip. And then there's, like, a montage towards the start of bad things that happen to Garfield on Mondays. And I recognize some of them from strips. Especially the one of Garfield being thrown out the window, which is kind of a famous popular strip just because it's been used in so many jokes. So, like, whoever made this movie at least knows a little bit about Garfield. And for like 5 to 10 minutes, it definitely feels like a legitimate Garfield movie. Yeah, along the lines of those TV specials made back in the early 80s. But... you know, the rest of the movie is like 7 to 80 minutes, which doesn't exactly feel like Garfield. It's not like super off. Well, let me explain. Okay, so the story is that Garfield needs to team up with his father. His father is a criminal, and he's being double-crossed by one of his former criminal partners. So they're being forced to perform a heist in a well-guarded dairy farm. They need to steal a truckload of milk. At the same time, they need to rescue a cow so they can give her to her celebrity spokesmodel boyfriend, Otto. And once that's done, Garfield goes back home. But he realizes his father loved him all along. His father didn't mean to abandon him as a baby. And that was... I really didn't like that particular storyline. Here's the story. You know, I think, why did Garfield's dad abandon him as a baby? What happened is that Garfield's dad put him in a box and said, I'll be back really soon. I'll get you some food. And he goes to a trash can to get some sardines. But then a human steps out and takes a really long phone call. And it is a long phone call. This guy is talking for like 5 hours. And Garfield's dad, instead of like going to a different trash can are just leaving, he stays there for the full 5 hours. And then by the time it's done, he gets this tiny sardine and he goes back to his little kitten who is gone. And that's the story. He was stuck listening to a 5-hour phone call. That's why he abandoned his baby. I did not like that at all. It like just strikes me as what a terrible, bad excuse. Ugh. Anyway, the evil partner, the evil former partner of Garfield's criminal father, double crosses Garfield's dad. His name is Vic, by the way. He doesn't appear in any of the Garfield strips. This is totally a new character made up entirely for the movie. So she decides to double cross Vic. I didn't like Vic's criminal partner. Like, she did not strike me as a very interesting villain. Like, she works as a villain. You get the sense that she's a villain, but she's just not very memorable, if that makes sense. It's like, yeah, I feel like they definitely should have taken like a different tack with her. If she had been like full-blown villain the entire time, maybe that would have worked. But she was going for like sophisticated villain. You're not quite sure which side she's on, but I mean, it's clear that she's the villain, and I think she should have been the villain the whole time. Her henchmen turn on her at the very end of the movie. At the end of the movie, so she tries to kill Garfield's dad by throwing him off a train, and we get this big action scene on top of the train where Garfield has to fight the villains, and he has to fight, and it was actually kind of cool because he calls in like delivery drones to deliver Italian food, and Garfield jumps on the drones while he's doing this big action scene on top of the train, and that looked cool. I liked it, but at the same time, that is so not Garfield. Garfield's the fat, lazy cat who sleeps all day. He's not an action hero who has big fights on top of trains. And even just him having a heist movie, why would you make the Garfield movie a heist film? Because that really is what takes up the majority of the movie, is, you know, him trying to dodge cheese-based traps. And, you know, I guess it's cheese. It's food. Kind of surprised they didn't do a U.S. Acres reference because they spend so much time on this dairy farm. But it's just weird. So that's my main complaint about the movie, is that the majority of it doesn't quite feel like a Garfield movie. It feels like it was just a script that was already written and somebody came back to the script later and rewrote it to make it more Garfield style. And, you know, it does work in a lot of places. Garfield is still kind of funny, and he's just sort of mean and sarcastic. At the same time, I didn't really enjoy the back and forth between Garfield and his dad. Odie's in the movie, too. He's okay. He just kind of tags along and makes noises every now and then. But Garfield and his dad fighting for, like, the entire movie, it very much felt like the Super Mario Brothers movie, which has the exact same voice actor. So it's Chris Pratt playing Mario and Garfield, and he's doing the exact same thing in both movies, where I'm spending the entire movie being snippy and mean and arguing with this one person. Well, I'm going to give snippy arguments back. In the Mario movie, it's Donkey Kong. Here it's Garfield and his dad, and it's like, oh. And, like, you know where this is going. You know they're eventually going to learn they really love each other, and Garfield's dad didn't abandon him. He had a really good reason, and no, he didn't. He had a terrible reason. He abandoned his poor baby kitten because some guy was on a 5-hour phone call, and he didn't think to maybe go check on his son once in a while. And John is barely in this movie. That's part of why it doesn't feel like a Garfield movie. It's like, he's all having adventures outside, and John's nowhere there. Now, they did that in some of the Garfield TV specials, like Garfield on the Town. I think that's the name of the one with his mom. Where is Garfield's mom in this? Because his mom is an established character. She was in the TV special. She was in the comic strip. She's not even mentioned anywhere. Arlene is not mentioned anywhere. Nermal shows up in like the last 3 seconds. They have a big party at Garfield's house, and then Nermal shows up. He pops up. He doesn't say anything. Does not say anything, but at least he exists. And same with like Dr. Liz. So she shows up the once, and they get a joke about, ha ha ha, Garfield's fat. It was okay, like he breaks the scale at the vet. That's a typical Garfield joke, okay? I really wasn't expecting that much more. Actually, no, I was, because John and Liz are a very well-established couple in the comic strip now, because they've been dating for, what, like 10, 15 years now? So I was kind of expecting her to actually play a role in this. Oh, another Garfield reference I noticed was, like, on John's fridge. Like, towards the end, there's a post-it note that says, call Lemon. You know, his roommate, who was the one who was the original owner of Odie. Nice reference there. Oh, that's something like the major Garfield fans, they'll catch on to, but no one else will. Like, nobody else will even give it a second thought. Yeah, most of the movie, John was just on the phone getting upset that he couldn't talk to a real person. He was just talking to machines. So, I guess my overall thoughts is that it's okay. I just wish it was more Garfield-y. They went with a more, like, hilarious... I don't blame them for making it hilarious. I also did like the sequence of Garfield as a little kitten, because it shows him as the cute, adorable kitten and how he first met John. I feel like that was probably covered in one of the TV specials. what's the one where Garfield and Odie get caught and sent to the pound? I'm forgetting the name of that one. Anyway, I was really cynical when they started this flashback of how Garfield first met John, but like, it won me over. It's like, I thought they were just going for the cute baby stuff, like, oh, baby Yoda, and, you know, baby Groot, and even the Ghostbusters did the baby Marshmallow Man, so I thought it was gonna be that, just jumping on a cute baby trend, but gosh, those things actually worked. With one complaint, there's, like, really not a lot of lasagna. Like, Garfield's food of choice in this movie is more pizza. There's a lot more shots of pizza than there are shots of lasagna, probably because pizza's easier to eat. Another weird moment, and they do this twice, is when Garfield eats a pizza, he, like, opens his mouth wide, you know, wider than any mouth could be open. That's a funny joke. And then he shoves the pizza in his mouth. It goes, ding, like a typewriter. No kid is going to understand that joke. Why does the pizza sound like a typewriter? And as I said, they do that again at the end of the movie when he has another pizza when he's back home. Yeah. So, I mean, it's an okay movie. It will entertain kids. It's you know, if you want an action movie that's funny and good for kids, this is not bad. It's just not quite Garfield. Just the entire premise doesn't strike me as a Garfield thing. And although, you know, they did put a big coat of Garfield paint onto a script, which probably wasn't a Garfield script to begin with. There are, like I said, plenty of references to Garfield fans. It definitely feels like the main character is Garfield, with a lot of the sarcastic remarks he makes. That a lot of them feel like things Garfield would say if you accept the premise that Garfield's an action star who fights villains on trains and breaks into heavily guarded places. But I don't quite buy that premise. So, yeah, I'm not sure what I would rate this movie. I'm a little torn between, like, saying, yes, it's good, definitely a great kids movie, because it is. Kids will like it. I'm sure this movie is going to make a profit. I'm sure it's going to be popular. I don't think it's going to make, like, $1 billion like the Super Mario Brothers movie did. Yeah, so I'm just sort of torn. Leave a comment below if you have thoughts on the movie. Maybe you have some, like, good ideas as to, well, does this count as a really good movie? Is it still good, even if it's not very Garfield? Because it's the Garfield movie. It should be extremely Garfield. And, it just kind of felt like not. It still entertained me. I mean, I'm not, like, gonna march to the movie theater door demanding my money back. I definitely laughed at least 10 to 20 times. So, you know, it's better than some other comedies I've seen recently. Bye.
Oh, wait. You shouldn't finish the video yet. There was a reference to Lorenzo Music. He's the guy who did the voice of Garfield. Yeah, I wish that this was the Garfield voice that was used in the actual movie, but it's not.